made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Transact Card, Align Life, Neuro Infinity, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 513 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Noda Hashimoto. And if you want to hear the story about how the riches are in the niches, welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. It's 513 today. Really excited for this episode with Dr. Noda Hashimoto. His business is called TrackStat. It's all about following the patient journey. And today we're going to be talking a lot about increasing profits. There's a lot that goes into a chiropractic office, and it's really cool to be working with Dr. Noda on a personal business level and seeing how he's been growing. So I'm really excited to go into his journey a little bit with you today. But before we get into this episode, I want everybody to know the big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? Well, first and foremost, we believe in the First Amendment. That's freedom of speech. A lot of people know that I got my background in journalism. So this show really is near and dear to my heart because it's protecting freedom of speech for something that I really love, which is chiropractic. And then that leads us to talk about two things that really matter: medical freedom and family health freedom. And chiropractic has been at the forefront of this for a very long time. So if you guys are looking for somebody to help you out with your health, go find a local chiropractor and see if we can get some more people involved with the chiropractic profession. And then philosophically sounding, I was telling everybody that we do support the science, philosophy, and art of chiropractic. A lot of people don't know that, Dr. Noda, that chiropractic is a triune of health. But philosophy is something we don't discuss a whole lot on this show, so I always make sure that I give a foundation of that before we actually talk about cool stuff. Maybe philosophy is cool. But it's BJ Palmer's Sacred Trust. Protecting the sacred trust is so important when it comes to chiropractic. And if you guys don't know what that means, go to your favorite search engine and look for BJ Palmer's last words. You're going to learn a whole lot more about chiropractic than what you previously did. And then we also support subluxation-based chiropractic. If you don't know what that means, then we need to really educate you on chiropractic. And then lastly, we believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence. When someone gets adjusted, man or woman, the physical, when they get adjusted, we believe that it connects man or woman, the physical, to man or woman, the spiritual. And with that being said, Dr. Noda, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. And I don't think philosophy is like a bad thing. To me, it's just kind of like guardrails. It's your core family. It's what you stand for. And like there's certain things that our family does in our health, how we run our business, how we do everything. And it just makes it so easy. It's kind of like Southwest. They rocketed up because they had that wheels up philosophy. And when they were trying to make decisions of bringing food on the plane or what kind of routes they picked, if it was part of wheels up, then they would do it. And their thing was, we're going to turn the planes around as fast as possible because we're transporting our customers and making more money. We're going to pick certain airports and certain routes. And, you know, like back in the day, they were absolutely killing it when, what the heck's the old CEO's name, but like Herb Kelleher or whatever like that. He was just insane, like awesome. But profits can sound like philosophy to some chiropractors as well. Some people think that can be a dirty word. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, I think it's a good opener for us because increasing profits is, it's, as they say, the lifeblood of business.
Yeah. And it's important.
I was talking on my previous interview and I was like, look, when I got my first job, I filled out this thing called a W-2 and they told me that I would be paid bi-weekly. I had no idea what that meant. And that means you get paid every 2 weeks, which I was like, that doesn't sound fun. Why don't you just make it weekly? That'd be cool to me. And that, and then they're like, by the way, we're going to hold back your first 2 weeks of your pay to like some other like time in your life that you might get this. And I'm like, well, why would you do that? Like, now you're not only paying me every other week, but now you're holding back my first 2 weeks. That doesn't sound like a good deal.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to like running a chiropractic office, there's a lot of people that are like, I don't know when I get paid.
Yeah. No, it's but like profits, like yes, like the goal of a business is to essentially make more money, but it's kind of how you do it. And for us, it's not like profits over people, but we do have to have profits, because if you have more profit, you could afford to hire that better person that you wanted to add to your team. You could pay your people better. If you want to buy a new piece of equipment, you could buy that piece of equipment. You could pay off your student loan debts. And imagine practicing with, you're still going to have stress, but without that stress of making your mortgage, paying your rent, paying off your student loans, it's just going to be so much more fun.
Yeah, I mean, I call it the happily ever after practice. And
Yeah.
and everybody wants that white picket fence, of practice that they have, that, they're not thinking about their student loan debts or the overhead on the office or the staff and everything, like I think everybody wants to go towards that direction.
Yeah. And, like I see people, like we have a bunch of clients and people say, it's like they just want more new patients or they want more visits. It's like at the end of the day, you're really after more profits. And, like there's really a few ways to do it. You could increase your fees, you could increase your volume, you could reduce your operating expense, and you could collect faster, which is reduce your AR or do like some kind of a prepay type thing. So like those are kind of like the handful of things. But like increasing your fees, I think is important. You see a lot of these guys having chiropractic fees from the 70s. And everything else is going up. Netflix is going up. Eggs are going up. Beef is going up. Gas is going up. Taxes are going up. Clothing goes up. Your employees ask for more. Cost of school goes up. Everything keeps going up. And then insurance companies are reimbursing less. And doctors are still charging the fees that they charged in the 70s or 80s. And I don't know, like I don't get it.
Well, there's a lot of advancements out there, and I think that there's a disconnect between rendered services and price point. And I think that that's been something that's been in the chiropractic profession for a long time. They're like, well, we charge this much to this insurance people, we'll charge this much to this insurance people, and over here we're cash. So I think that a lot of times people are like, well, I don't know what's a fair thing to charge for this. And then there's a lot of confusion based on the outcomes.
Yeah. And then like, what measures growth. So like one of the things I always recommend people track, and we have it in there on purpose, is your collection visit average, your dollar per visit average. Because if you don't measure it, you have no idea where you're at. And then you could constantly iterate and make changes to do that. Like you could raise your fees, you could look at complementary services, you could become an expert to that person, right? Like earlier we were talking about kind of like doing like weight loss stuff, and you guys were specializing in weight loss services, and you became an expert to those people. So if you become kind of like the cardiologist, cardiothoracic surgeon, expert orthopedic surgeon, you can raise your fees. So people will pay not only for what you do, but they'll pay actually a lot more for who you are to them. And then if you become a celebrity, then you can charge even more.
So let's talk about the volume.
Yeah.
You say price first, now volume.
Yeah. So volume, there's a lot of ways you could do it, but one way is actually getting more new patients, right? So like, how do you get more new patients? Well, you got to market for them. You got to become an expert to them. Like doing niches, I think are great. Some people don't like doing niches, but even if you're doing subluxation based chiropractic, you can focus on headaches and migraines. You could focus on sciatica. You could focus on mid back pain. You could focus on chiropractic for golfer. So you don't have to abandon your philosophy, but you become an expert in what you do. Because a lot of people think chiropractors just work with low back pain. Like my first experience with chiropractic, I was going to physical therapy for 6 months after a head-on car accident. And I got some improvement, but I wasn't getting better. And it wasn't until they're going to refer me to an orthopedic surgeon when I decided to start investigating things on my own. And when one of my friends' dad said, "You need to go see my doctor," and I asked what they did, and he said it was a chiropractor. He's like, "I got headaches, I got neck pain. I also had low back pain and kind of like from a disc bulge, but it was a lot of upper back and neck stuff." And I didn't put the connection because I just figured they're low back pain doctors.
Yeah, well, like you said, regardless of the type of model of people practicing, I think that you're right. I've been told this since the early stages of me working in the chiropractic profession is symptom sell.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the people out there looking for chiropractic, they're not educated like a chiropractic mind is. Like we're like, chiropractors don't take care of that. We don't do headaches and neck pain. We just like adjust the subluxation, the body heals itself. Like that's a
No,
chiropractic mindset. But the people looking for chiropractic,
they
they're
don't
like,
know.
I have headaches. I heard you can help with this. Can you help me? So if
Yeah.
you become that niche practitioner, they always say that the riches are in the niches.
Yeah, and
And
they go through that awareness, consideration, decision phase. Like the first thing, like it's like people like you got to talk to them where they're at. Like in the beginning, they don't even know they're not even looking for a chiropractor. In the beginning, all they know is they went golfing, and normally their back pain goes away with ibuprofen and Tylenol and some ice in a couple of days. And this time they went golfing, and their back's been hurting for 3 weeks. They've done all the things and they become aware that they have a problem and it's not getting better.
mm-hmm.
And then they're actually trying to find something that's going to work for them. And then they might find that, okay, maybe a chiropractor will work with this. But if you just said back pain for golfers, they're going to start looking for that. Then they go to your website. They're going to look at your reviews. They're going to go to your website. They're going to read about you. And you need to make that process really, really easy.
And that's a digital footprint. And I think
Yeah.
that if more people paid attention to like that type of mindset when it comes to building a brand, like digital footprint matters. Like
Oh, huge.
your
Huge.
reviews correlate with your website. Your website correlates with your Facebook page. Your Facebook page correlates with your Yelp. Like
Yeah. They
it
all
all correlates with each other. It's all digital footprint.
Yeah, and some people hate on Yelp, but like depending on where you are in the country, Yelp matters. Like I'm in California, Yelp matters. I hate Yelp, but it's just like I remember years ago, like in our complex, we had a 1-star review from someone. There's a primary physician like right next to us, and they had a bad experience there, and their labs didn't get covered, and then they went and gave us a negative review. It's like
You
they
never even
meant to
came
do
here.
it for a primary care clinic. This is a chiropractic practice. Nowhere does it say that. And they say it's against our policies. It's like they wouldn't even remove a review for the wrong business.
Yeah, and see
So
that's the thing too with congruency in the business models for people is, that's why I think a lot of times in tech we develop new things because things get stagnant and they don't work anymore and we have to innovate. And I
yeah,
think that that's what we've done really is on the digital model, people are innovating left and right. No one owns a space anymore.
yeah. And then like with the footprint, like most of the stuff starts on mobile. Like for one of the things I recommend people do is you either go to Google developer mode where you could like just kind of right click and go into the inspect and do that, or you could just go on your phone and you could look for like best chiropractor near me or best whatever. See what pops up. Are you in that 3-pack? Kind of like Google will show kind of like the top 3 plus like the ads up there. Are you in that? And if you're not there, you're SOL and you need to get in there. And then once you go there, you're going to look at the reviews and then they're going to go to your site. If your site loads too slow, it sucks. And then you need to open it up on mobile and you need to have like some kind of an offer. Your offer doesn't have to be something free, it doesn't have to be a discount, but it has to be like a call to action and just make it easy for them. And I see people, they have these sites and they're all janky and stuff like that. And there's no reason for me to book there. And like, you're not going to get new patients. So like that would be like a new patient thing. And then like they have the new patient experience is off, right? Like someone opts in and requests information, they don't call them back. Someone calls, that's how they answer the phone. And then when they finally come in, they'll have them fill out like an hour of paperwork. And I'll see some people where like they'll have the patients arrive like 45 minutes to an hour early. Then they'll spend an hour and a half with the patient. And then the next visit, they're asking them to come in 3 times a week for 8 weeks. And they're thinking that I was in there for 2.5 hours. The patient starts counting the time from when they walked in the door, not when their appointment started, when they walked in the door. So I was there for 2.5 hours plus drive time. So now that's 3.5 hours. I don't have 3.5 times 3 times a week for the next 2 months. And it's killing people. But like that's a conversion problem. And so I always try to, like in our office, from when you walked in the door, you're getting greeted, offered a beverage. They've already watched a video tour of the office before they arrive. They know what to expect, and they're getting brought down, vitals, brought into a room with their beverage of choice. They watch a 4-minute video of what to expect, and all of that happens there. That's happening within 5 minutes of their appointment. And it's just...
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Transact Card, Align Life, Neuro Infinity, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. Let's hustle. I think what we have a different consumer today. And I think that we also have to deliver to that consumer the way that they have created in their mind how it should be received to them. So I think you're doing something really well. I think talking chiropractic business is what people need. You know,
we're in the Amazon generation, right? Like people just like, they don't
send
want
it
to
to
do
me in
3
72
clicks.
hours.
They just like pay now. Like they want to just do like 1-2 clicks and then boom, it's at their house in 1 to 2 days. It's crazy. Like I don't know how old you are, but like I was around like pre-Google, right?
Oh yeah.
Like I remember going to the library and looking shit up. Right?
Yeah. Now everybody leans on Google like it's their brain.
Yeah. So it's and that is just like part of the new patient equation. And then so many people are focused on new patients. And then one of the things I tell people to do is like how many people you get to finish their treatment plan. If they finish their treatment plan, they're going to get the outcome that you told them that they're probably going to get. You're more likely to get a referral. You're going to get more visits. You're going to get more revenue, and you're going to get a better outcome. There's a lot of offices where the patients will just self-discharge versus a doctor saying, hey, you got to a certain point, we're going to discharge you, or we're going to put you into the next phase of care, or we're going to refer you out. But it should be a decision between you and the patient, not the patient on their own.
I call it the chiropractic breakup.
Yeah.
Like chiropractors get broke up with more than anybody I ever met just because people start and then they discontinue. And then you're like, what, where did James go? He was just here last week. And now we go on reaction. We go on reactive modeling. And we were like, call. Where's James? Well, James is thinking he's better. So James is gone. He doesn't want to finish his pre-plan. Actually, he wants refunded.
Yeah. And then, Jim, you know what PVA is, right? Patient visit average.
Yep.
Like people have talked about that. And like, and I know a lot of consultants teach this and they like PVA. And I think PVA is popular because it's easy to measure, but I don't think it's going to show you where the problem is. Like PVA was just going to show you, you know, you're going to have your total visits divided by new patients. And, you know, I think that there is some value to that, but if you have an influx of new patients, that number goes down. Versus like, if you look at like patient drop-off analysis is going to show you like what specific visit number people are dropping off at. So I always like patient drop-off analysis, which is another thing that we do in ours, because drop-off analysis is going to show you specifically what visit you need to fix and which provider is having the problem, right?
Yeah.
And I think that also the temptation that a lot of our clients have is they want to focus on the provider that's doing the poorest. And a lot of times they'll take like, I'm not going to call them the weakest link, but the lowest performer and try to focus on training and getting them up. But let's say you have one provider where your average patient drops off at visit 6. And you have another provider where their average patient drops off at visit 24. That's a big jump. So I say is like, I'm not saying to give up on the new grad or the new person, but like figure out how you could take stuff off the plate, off the workhorse. So if they're doing their soap notes, get them a scribe and figure out all the little mundane things that they're doing and figure out how to get that off of their plate. So you can take that workhorse and get them working harder and then work on your lower performer too at the same time.
Well, I think there's a lot of headspace issues when it comes to growing something in a business, and some people see like one part of what we think they should be doing as not their responsibility. And
Yeah.
then they made that internal decision without having a conversation about it. And you can see the performance challenged at a certain juncture in that patient's experience. So when somebody says that's not my job, we can see that now through the numbers.
Yeah, and it's everyone's job, and kind of depending on the school you went to. Like I went to LACC, Southern California University of Health Sciences. It's a mouthful, but like we'll call it more of a evidence-based school. And it's like a lot of these docs say is like, oh, I don't want to see people like X amount of times. It's like, well, even if you look at the Mercy guidelines, that was like 3 times a week for a month and 1 to 3 times a week for 4 to 8 weeks. And like last year, I took a look at patient drop off analysis, and we did like an analysis of, I think it was like 800 chiropractors that we looked at. It was like pitiful. Like most of the people are dropping off between visits like 4 and 6. And you're not like, if you're trying to build up muscle tone, it's going to take 12 weeks to build up muscle tone. You're not kind of like increasing flexibility of tendons, ligaments. You're not doing any kind of subluxation correction. Like you're not doing any of that in like 4 to 6 visits. You're working on symptomatic stuff at best. And I think some people are so worried about being a high volume doctor for the evidence-based people. And it's like, you know, like you go to a restaurant and you see a bunch of reviews and you go and you see a lineup out the door. You want to go there. Versus like if you're a low volume practice, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with low volume practices, but there's not a ton of energy in there, and people go to where people are. And it's even if you're a high touch office, like I remember when I was getting going on my own, it was just like me, my wife was doing her thing, I was doing my thing. You know, like I'd cluster book people in the morning. I'd see 2 people at a time, and I'd have one person start on a therapy, adjust the other person, and switch them around. And then I cluster booked at the end of the day, and I worked on my practice in the middle of the day. And versus like just spacing them out sequentially, it just, I don't know, like it's hard to build up that high energy, and you know, like it makes a difference. I just remember I had 4 patients in practice, my first 4 patients, and like I remember one of them says like, oh my gosh, she's so busy, I just cluster booked them 5 and 5:15. I just saw them at the very end of the day. It was like, I just chuckled that it was just like, oh doc, man, you're so busy. I was like, oh yeah, super busy. I was like, you didn't know that I only had 4 patients and I was seeing all 4 of them 3 times a week.
And that's just it too. It's like we can create our own realities.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great thing about what you do to help people with your track stat system is it helps people create a better reality for the model of practice they want to run. And it gives people a chance to, like, you can see the drop off of a care plan, or you can see where, you know, one practitioner performs really well and does well up to a certain spot. And you are right. The chiropractors have been beating their chest for years about PVA. And you're probably spot on. It's so easy to say, yeah, that matters. Well, it's easy to track. But like you also said, it doesn't take into account PVAs suffer when you see a lot of new patients.
Yeah.
So if you're seeing a bunch of new people coming in, your PVA is not going to be high. But that means that you're experiencing a different growth pattern.
And some people calculate it based on new patient conversions. So it just depends on like where you got taught. But yeah, I think it's a overall symptom. It's kind of like a patient walking into your office and saying, I don't feel good. Where does it not feel good? I know some of the people on here are more subluxation based, but like that's why people are coming in.
Well, so here's the thing too, is we were always trained like about visit 7 to do like a reeval on our patients. I worked in a clinic for 6 years and I had to do the reevals. So I'd always ask people, hey, do you remember what the original thing you came in here for? So many times people forgot why they originally came into our office because they got better. And that's why people break up with their chiropractor, because after 7th visit, you don't reinforce why they're still there for the next like 3 times a week for the next 2.5 months.
And doing an early reeval like that is smart, because a lot of people will do it at like, say, 12 visits, but a lot of people are dropping off by 12 visits.
So that's where we saw our performance drop. We saw it happen about the 7th visit. So then we shot to the line, we shot ahead of the fall off, and we started having these like little interventions with people.
Yeah. And how long did that take?
We re-engaged them.
Like, how long did it take? Did it take a long time?
5
minutes. That's it. Just
5 minutes.
A more unique 7th visit.
Yeah.
And that's all they have to do. And sometimes it's like having a more impactful 3rd visit, and maybe it's 7th visit. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute thing on the books.
Well, then we saw, Dr. Noda, people staying longer, and those people became our champion practice members. They started referring more people in.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's like those things kind of like matter, and other things that we track are like leading indicators, because like we'll track like just looking at the average of the last 2 weeks, the front desk rescheduling rate of canceled and missed appointments. And then we automatically track kind of like their percentage of people leaving with a future appointment, right? And those things are going to change before visits change. And visits are going to change before revenue changes. Versus a lot of people, they get to the end of the month and they say, what the heck, WTF, where's all the money?
So let me ask you this. This isn't like any scripted thing, but I'm really curious. As you've seen the development of technology in chiropractic offices, do you feel that because of technology with two-way texting and messaging systems, that it's helped improve the position of like a front desk person so they're not always on the phone rescheduling things and calling people?
It does. One of the things I've found, and you probably found this even with your marketing clients, it's just like your top people are your top people. Like our top 20% are winners, and they just win. Like I could take some of our top clients and parachute them into a random town, give them a cell phone, a piece of paper, and a pen, come back in a year, and they got like a rock solid practice. Like winners win. So one of the things that this does help is it takes the people that are just below that and making it easier for it to succeed, but like it's not a guarantee of success. So which is why I would say on average, not always, our current and former coaching clients, now we don't do any coaching, but clients that came from like some kind of business coaching, they do well because we're taking stuff that they were doing manually and then just automating it. And it's our goal for our software, and we're not there yet, is I want to make it where a 20-year-old that doesn't know anything about anything to log into our software, because we're already doing some AI stuff and algorithms and just telling them what to do. Like we have our recall AI where we take a look at like patient value, do they have money on account, likelihood of them scheduling, how many visits they had. And based on that, we score it and we put them in order. So the person doesn't even have to know who the patients are. They go top to bottom. And we put the top 20% that are more likely to schedule, more valuable at the top. So we're doing that with some of our things. And our goal is to eventually do that with everything. And my hope is at that point is we could take someone that has no coaching experience and to run their practice like they had a ton of coaching.
That's so cool, because I think a lot of times the reason things have like fail rate is because of the human element. People either lose interest in it or they just don't know how to do it. And I think that if you help people with their fail rate, which, you know, that's an encouraging thing to say, look, if you do it this way, we can take your old model and we can save you from those issues.
Yeah. So it's unfortunately not everyone in chiropractic is great at business. Not every dentist is great at business. not every mechanic is good at business. And sometimes some of the people that are best at business aren't the best clinicians. Like, it's like I have some of my friends that I know from school and other things, and phenomenal clinicians, phenomenal, horrible business people. So like, it just, so like, my goal is, I think that if we get more chiropractors becoming successful, they could afford to pay their people better. If you could increase the average salary of the chiropractors, you're going to increase the amount of people going to chiropractic school, and you're going to get more people under chiropractic care. Like, I think there's 66 to 70,000 chiropractors out there. Physical therapy, I think there's like 250,000. I know some people would turn feather me, but like, to the outsider looking in, we are more similar than different, right? They're saying that they're taking care of, say, neck and back pain without drugs, surgery, or shots. And, like, because physical therapists are starting to manipulate and pop bones, and chiropractors are starting to do rehab. So like, I know in some conferences, some people are turn feather me, but like, if you're Joe Blow that doesn't know anything about anything, they just see, okay, they work on back pain for golfers without doing surgery, without medications, without surgery. So like, it's like the line is getting more and more blurred, and there's, they have 3 to 4 times as much of us. And the reason is that their average salary is just a hair higher in some states.
Yeah.
There's no reason for that.
And I think when we talk about the chiropractic profession getting stronger, I hear a lot of times it's harder to like get out of a chiropractic office and transition out of it because it's personality driven. And I think that if more people looked at it to become a numbers driven practice, then it would be easier for them when they're ready for their swan song. They could sell it for more, and they could transition out of it easier if they focused more on the numbers and automating systems, because that's attractive to the future practitioner. The future practitioner doesn't want a bunch of old x-ray files. They don't want a bunch of dead files. They want numbers that they can follow, that are sellable and usable and recoverable. And they don't want to come into a sick practice. They want to come into a practice that doesn't have to be, hinged on someone's personality or someone's ego. They want to come into something that's better system managed.
Yep. And then raise your fees. Like, a lot of people, there's chiros. I remember I was sitting at a conference, and like, Fab Mancini was up there talking, and like, he was talking to the guy setting the fees for, like, I think Medicaid or something like that, or Medicare. And he was complaining to him. He's like, why are you paying? If you value chiropractic so much, why are you paying? It's like, we don't set your rates. You guys set your rates. We have actuaries that go out and they kind of look at the lowest average rate, and that's how the fees are getting set. And chiropractors are shooting themselves in the foot. If you look at ASHIT, or what is it? ASH, sorry. But like, you look at all these things, like, I remember they'll pay you a higher rate if you are in the better tier, and the better tier is less visits, and everyone's like just racing to the bottom. If, like, you'll see this in medical groups like all the time. Like, I remember, and I think it was in Colorado, there was a group of cardiologists. They banded together, and then they refused to see patients from a certain payer. I can't remember, like Blue Cross. And then they raised their rates because they held the line. And it's like, we're not going to see them, versus a lot of chiropractors like, what the heck? I'm going to go in there and see all these people, and I'm going to be the only guy that sees this ASH or Blue Cross. So like, I think we need to increase our business acumen. We need to increase our profitability. We need to increase our dollar per visit. Like, we need to do all those things. And I think we're going to be stronger. So like, those are important. And, like, just, you got to collect on the services that you render. Like, a lot of people, they're writing off their accounts receivable. And, like, that was one of the things I was going to talk about. Like, one of the little things that we did is we looked at who was coming in the next day. We had someone like just kind of go through and like roughly price out. We had fee schedules for what each person should pay, and we did prepays, but we did a fairly quick once over, and we collected for the services before they were rendered, even if it was an approximate when we're doing insurance. And, like, all of us have been to a dentist, and what happens before you go out? They do not let you out until you schedule and pay, right? That's it. It's just like, you got to schedule and you pay, and you can't get out of there without paying, versus chiropractors is like, hey, see you later. And
schedule when you're ready.
Yep, and no payment. And it's like that's a big thing. And like the last thing I was going to probably focus on is just reducing your operating costs, like, and leveraging software and automation. Like that's one of the things we do. People say it's like, well, we have a process for that. And it's like, well, how many hours is it taking you to do that process? And is that process accurate, and is it consistent? And they'll say it's like, well, we're paying our people salary. But if you're freeing your people up from finding information, finding out what to do, they could actually reach out to patients. Or you could have a patient's mom that is recovering from hip surgery, and you sent the patient's mom a get well card, or you sent someone else's get well card, or a happy birthday, or little things like that. That's where you should be spending your time. Like, one of the things I used to do is I'd call people after their first adjustment, and that made an impact. When now with technology, like there's a software called Loom, you could shoot quick 1-minute video, and it automatically uploads it, and you could just text that link out, and they could just watch that little video. And a lot of people want to automate that process, and you can automate that process, but I think that's worth not automating. So if you could put in a couple of specific things about them and about their goal, how they want to go on that trip to Italy, or play with their grandkids, or play with their dog, like that stuff matters. And I think it's a human to human relationship, and automate as much as you can, but like some things I don't think are worth automating.
Mm-hmm. So TrackStat, helping improve the patient experience, and helping increase profits. And if you guys want to learn more about the TrackStat system, go over to chirohustle.com. They're one of our sponsors, so we thank them so much for believing in what we believe in and supporting this beautiful profession of chiropractic. Dr. Noda, is there anything I didn't cover that you wanted to discuss before we call it a day?
No, that's pretty much anything. And then, when people visit our site, all they have to do, they'll go there, they could watch a demo, and then they could schedule a call right there if it seems like it's right for them. We do a free trial. So if it doesn't do what I say it's going to do, then they don't have to sign up.
Cool. Well, thanks for being our guest today. You're episode 513 of the Chiro Hustle podcast, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right. I'll just tell everybody, like I always do, closing out, you're just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks, Doc.
Thank you.
All right. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.